Noah Baumbach is one of my favourite directors, and it seems as though as time has gone on, he's only become a better director. However, Frances Ha seems to be the film of his that just can't be topped, at least in my opinion. Now I know this is down to the characters, as Frances is arguably the best character he and Gerwig have ever created. The story feels natural, yet you are engaged from start to finish. However, the choice to shoot on black and white, and digital at that, really stood out to me. And today I want to look at how Baumbach created this authentic atmosphere in the cinematography. I'll be covering the look and how it compares to his other films, the use of lighting and composition to tell a story, as well as the equipment Sam Levy opted for, as it was a very interesting choice. When it comes to the look, where else do you start than talking about the use of black and white, especially in a film like this, because it's easier to explain with movies like The Lighthouse, Mank, Ida and Ed Wood, but when it comes to Frances Ha, there isn't really a solid reason for it to lack colour. It's set in the modern day, had the ability and did shoot in colour, so to me it seems as though it was down to being a stylistic choice, which is also a very good reason to shoot in black and white. However, Baumbach had a different reason for doing so. I'd wanted to make a movie in black and white, and there was something about this material and this character. It was the inherent romance of the character and her romantic view of the world. It felt like she should have a cinematic document of her life. I mean, it's a kind of an ordinary life, but I wanted it to feel beautiful and joyful. Now, even though this is all in black and white, Baumbach's style of authenticity is still very much present, and this is namely through the use of organic light, which I'll touch on in a minute, characters that feel real, and framing that makes you feel as though you were there with these characters, yet are still observing them. Now, this is a story that most people can relate to, and I know I'm just talking about the look in this section, but having a story like this really helps craft the authentic feel. It's a bit hectic, Frances is someone we can somewhat relate to, and the cinematography shows that. How, you may ask? Well, through perspective. We are viewing the film from her point of view. The way she sees the world is the way we see her world. What's not important to her is cut, and if it's something especially important, it's as if she's guiding the camera. Now, touching on Baumbach's other films, even looking up to Marriage Story, which I have a video on linked in the top right corner and description below, and what we've seen of White Noise, which I won't show in case anyone is avoiding spoilers, the cinematography style, even though he's changed DPs, hasn't really changed, it's just evolved. My favourite place to start is usually The Squid and the Whale, because this is really where we see Baumbach get a substantial budget so that he can curate his look. Obviously that has more in common with Marriage Story and the Merowitz stories, but the raw authenticity is still there. I think a better film to compare it to though is Mistress America, not because it's Gerwig, but because we have more of that intimate observational style. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but I can't think of a better way to put it. And of course, what links all these films together is New York, and it does factor into the overall look that his films have. Not massively, but they wouldn't have the same feel if they weren't all set there. How do you even go into depth when talking about a lighting style like this? Well, by starting with the effect that it's giving off. Now to me, I'm feeling a lot of authenticity, hence the title. There is a prevalent use of strong shadows and artistic lighting, especially in the dance scenes. Now, I throw around the term heightened realism quite a bit on this channel, and in simple terms, it's my way of saying a film looks real and natural, but with an essence of something. Maybe it's a splash of colour, which isn't the case here, a stronger key light, some shadow, or just something that adds to the naturalistic look. All of Baumbach's films are a great example of this in use. However, when it comes to Frances Ha, it feels very prominent, more so on the adventurous side though, which is completely in line with Frances's character. When it comes to the composition, however, it's much easier to talk about telling a story through cinematography. So something that I noticed when I was watching the film was how much breathing room Frances had, and this is something that can be interpreted a number of ways. However, I like to think it shows that she can always move forward and that nothing is really blocking her, which we see when she goes to Paris. Now, something that's very prominent in this film is that as time goes on, Frances becomes more and more separated from Sophie, and this is shown not only through character placement, but also through the blocking and how we see the characters separate from each other. And then of course, we get to the end.
That's Sophie. She's my best friend.
When it comes to the equipment, the choice might shock you, but might also make you feel quite confident, as instead of shooting on 35 or even 16mm, which Baumbach could have easily done at this stage in his career, he instead opted for the Canon 5D Mark II, arguably the best DSLR from Canon at the time, and paired this with some L-series glass. But why would you opt for a DSLR of all things on a $3 million budget? Well, that's actually one of the reasons. The film is set in New York, and on something of this scale, you can't just shoot guerrilla, so the production had to occasionally shut down streets, and they were doing this in one of the most expensive cities in the world. They also had a full crew, incredible soundtrack, locations, and all of this adds up very quickly. Sure, he didn't have to go with such a cheap camera package, but in my opinion, this was definitely a budgetary reason to do so, and whilst no one explicitly says this, if he did have a couple million more, he would have been able to afford the crew to move a bigger camera like it was a 5D. That isn't everything though, as I'm going to contradict myself here, but I'd also say the 5D adds to the overall feel of the film. This is a low budget drama, and in the best way possible, almost feels like a debut film. Obviously with an incredible cast and crew, but the story just really leans into the use of a lower end camera. But when it's in the hands of a talented cinematographer like Sam Levy, you never would have guessed it. So overall, you don't need a big camera to shoot a gorgeous looking film, although I would put a lot of thought into the script and developing your characters. The organic light is usually the best option. Of course you can add something to make it stand out more, but natural light will never get old. Oh, and if you can, throw Adam Driver in there, as he makes any film worth watching. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Not so if you did, have a recommendation or an analysis, leave it down below. Thanks so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time. Bye.